Hello everyone, welcome back. Today is January 1st, 2024, and I needed to come on and address something that I have shied away from for quite a while now. You haven't seen me a whole lot in the last year and a half, and there's a number of reasons for that. Some of it is my work. Some of it is removing myself from difficult situations with clients that I decided weren't a good fit for me. And some of it was volunteer work that I do. And I do quite a bit of that, especially now. But when you get right down to it, most of the reason you haven't seen me is because I've been dealing with the grief and the anger of Shana's death. And if you aren't familiar with that, I have some videos going through that and what happened. For quite a while, we were told by the sheriff's department not to say what we knew, and we know a bit more than the public does, that it would interfere with their investigation, and we honored that. We were not honored. We were told over and over, don't say anything, don't do anything, and we didn't. And we finally got the toxicology reports. I think we got those, I don't know if it was the end of 2022 or January, February. I think it was in 2022 we got those. There was no meth, there was no heroin, the things that were said about her. There was none of that. There was a very small amount of tissue that was able to be tested, and that was degraded because it was 10, maybe 11 days that her remains were out in the Texas Hill Country. And it was just a small amount of brain tissue, kind of dehydrated. But that's what they had to test. And they did not find any of the drugs that she was accused of having taken. And I'm very glad about that, because she fought so hard to get away from meth before she came to live with us. So I'm very happy that she did not return to that. What they did find, and it was, according to our detectives, even the medical examiners were confused about finding this and the amount that they found. And that is a very large amount of diphenhydramine. Now, what I understand is that is an active ingredient in like Benadryl, something like that. But this is way, way more than any reasonable assumption of taking Benadryl that was found in her brain tissue. I'm not going to go into details about that, but the drug was diphenhydramine, and if you want to look it up, it raises a whole lot of questions. We found out just several months back We had been trying to contact the detectives and we're not getting answers. We weren't getting a call back, nothing. So Brian finally got through, and he got a return call from a totally new detective we'd never heard of, who told us, oh, that case was closed January of 2023. They never notified us. We had been told, don't say anything to anybody, don't do anything because you'll interfere with an investigation that they had no intention of following up on. And when I say I'm angry, that's the main anger, because we do not believe Shana took her life. We really don't believe she took diphenhydramine in that quantity. So the question is, how did it get in her system? How did all of this transpire? Because none of it made sense from the very first day that she was missing or the day that she was found. None of it. But they never notified us. Now, we do know Shana had been drinking heavily before she left this area and when she married this person. We do know that she decided maybe March of 2022 that they would both go to AA meetings. I don't know if she ever got to go, but I don't believe he ever went. And she was not able to go anywhere because her car had not been driven in a very, very long time. So we also know that at one point she called us or texted us and said, I'm coming back. And that was the last that she said about it. We have no proof. We have reports from people, and I don't know that those were ever followed up on because, nobody called the police. But we're pretty sure, based on a number of things, that there was domestic violence. And that was from a number of different sources. We also know for a fact that in Shana's first marriage, there was domestic violence. And I know because my volunteer efforts are very heavily in the domestic violence community. Many people that are victims of domestic violence will eventually go back because it's what they know. And so we do believe there was domestic violence in this marriage. We can't prove it. At this point, we really can't prove anything. What I will say with my grief, with my anger, I have wanted to pursue justice throughout this process. And when we found out that the case had been closed and that they didn't even bother telling us, it was so much worse. But every time we talked about or did anything to even pursue trying to get something to happen on this, there was always a door closed. As a Christian, as a believer, I know that sometimes God opens doors and You will be led in a certain way. Nobody's talking to you. There's no voices. Things just keep happening to point you in a certain direction. And I believe that's God's will. And I also know that there's times when those doors shut in your face repeatedly. And no matter what you do, you just aren't succeeding in doing what you think you want to do. And I also believe that that's God's will, turning you away from that. And at the same time, scriptures are telling me, this is my will. Justice is mine, saith the Lord. I know that every one of us, good, bad, Christian, or not, is going to be judged in the end by God. And so, even though it's hard, I have decided and talked with Brian, and we have decided we're going to not try and pursue this. We know that whatever happened is going to be judged. And I'm not going to say it's easy, but we're learning to live with that. We do know that this man is in prison currently, or I believe, I haven't checked lately. His third DUI that resulted in injuries 3 or 4 years prior to Shana's death. He kept getting procedural delays in going to court over and over and over. And we have our suspicions about that also, but it doesn't change anything. He finally went to court. He was finally found guilty. And I believe he received 2 or 3 6-year sentences to be served concurrently. And that he could get time off for good behavior. Now, this is Texas. Third DUI resulting in injuries. We heard one person died later, but we don't know if that was the cause or contributed to it. We don't know. But we do know he did go to prison. Now, when he's going to get out, I don't know. So there's nothing we can do. We are not even going to get her ashes because he got mad at us because of something someone here told him, which was lies. So he held that over our heads and then decided he would not give us her remains. We don't know what happened to them. I really don't believe he did anything honorable with them. They could be in the trash. I don't know. So this gets back to me not making videos for you. I've actually recorded quite a few over the last period of time and just could not get the energy it took to edit them and upload them. So I'm sorry for that. I just couldn't. In addition to that, as I said, I've spent a lot of time volunteering, and I am on the board of a nonprofit agency. And I give a lot of myself for that. I can't help Shana. What I can do is help this agency in ways that I know to be able to run successfully and to do the work that needs to be done, because there's just, the numbers are crazy. If you knew how many victims there are of the different types of domestic violence, you'd be shocked. But I guarantee if you're in a crowd and you look around you, your eyes are going to land on victims or survivors. And my goal is to help victims become survivors, and also the education that we provide to help prevent domestic violence. And a lot of that is targeted at children in the schools, teaching them what a healthy relationship is and signs to look out for. The actual work is not something I'm qualified for, but I can act on the board of directors, and I can help fundraise, and I can help the agency run the way it has to be run, and that's my job. So that's a big part, especially recently, of why you haven't seen me. I do want to get back to making more videos, and I will, but I just ask for some grace, because this has been so hard. Between Brian and myself, we had 3 children. All 3 died at different times, different causes. None of it was their own fault. And the manner of Shana's death, it's never easy, but it was horrifying. So I just wanted to come on here and tell you some of these things. I've wanted to for months and months, but that's one of those doors I just couldn't seem to open. So I'm here today to tell you that that's why you haven't seen me, but to make you a promise that I'm trying my hardest to not only film these videos, but to also get them uploaded so that I'm back in front of you and on a much more frequent basis than I have been. And it's a new year. It's 2024 today. So I don't really do New Year's resolutions, but what I do is try and always do better than I did the year before. So that is what I'm going to try and do. I want to wish you all a happy, healthy, prosperous, and safe New Year. God bless.